Good afternoon to you if you are watching this as a live person. Ha ha ha, it's very witty. We are, as you can see on the screen, going to present a brief mini-series on transactional writing texts, which come up, of course, in the paper 3. And this is aimed at the English First Additional Language candidates in grades 10 and 11. Now there it says examples from previous papers. Yes, we are going to be using examples from previous papers, but first I'd like to do some background information. So let's do this and look at some tips and facts, etc., etc. Now, transactional writing. Of course, we have longer transactional pieces and we have shorter transactional pieces. This is at first additional language level. So the critical thing, and you see I've put that first onto the board, learn the correct format. Format matters. Some pieces have easier formats than others. Yes, it just works that way. But ensure that whatever piece you select, you are familiar with the format. Okay, then you have to look at the language, the register, in actual fact, is what we're looking at here. Is it formal or informal? Okay, certain pieces you don't use any figurative language at all, whereas other ones you use colloquial, etc., just not slang. Okay, and one thing to note, please note this, I'm putting it on the board as a fact. Informal language tasks are easier. It just works like that because you don't have to mind your P's and Q's and check every single word that you're using is at the highest possible register, etc., etc. Informal is easier. And there's some examples. You've got friendly letter, dialogue, and speech. And then you've also got diary entries and stuff like that. I must make sure that those are included. My apologies for that, I should have put those in. Okay, now let us look at our transactional texts in paper 3. You will see the longer texts are 120 to 150 words. Okay, and the shorter texts are 80 to 100 words. It has been like this now as long as I can remember, and that's a long time indeed. Okay, they've never changed the lengths, so you can work comfortably on those ones. Now, your longer texts are based on selection out of 4 different categories. And there you see the first category. These are the letters. You've got 3 types. You've got the friendly, the formal, and the letter to the press. We're going to look at those in a little bit of detail now, just to make sure you don't blow it too quickly. But be assured that you will get a letter to write, whether it is friendly, formal, or to the press. Okay, then, the second category, this is a really weird one. You've got a choice between an obituary or a CV with a covering letter. Now, until recently, nobody has ever been able to set a question involving a excuse me, a CV with a covering letter, because you've only got 150 words in which to set the question. How do you have a CV and a covering letter in 150 words? This is until last year in the final exam, the national paper, they actually managed to set such a question. They gave the CV and said, right, set the covering letter. And I have included it as an example of these texts. So we'll take a look at that a bit later. But first, category C. A really awkward one, this, because so many of these things are not part of our regular everyday transactions. So we'll look at those in detail a bit later. Then category D, the big one, speech or dialogue. So easy. Well, for most people. that is the category at which I always look first, because you are most likely to produce a good result with that sort of thing, you know, informal language, etc., etc. But we'll go into that later. Okay, so there are your longer transactional texts. It will always be it'll always be one from each of those categories. Now, let's look at our shorter ones. The first one, you have a choice between advertisement or invitation card. Now, when I put there advertisement, it could be such things as a full-blown advertisement to be placed in a newspaper. You could have a flyer. You could have a poster. All of those are types of advertisements. So I've just put it as advertisement. And of course, the invitation card is the alternative. Okay. Then in category B, you've got diary entries or postcards. The reason I always laugh at that one, I mean, I haven't physically seen a postcard in a shop since 2015. And it is very likely that none of the grade 10 or 11 learners of today, or grade 12 for that matter, have ever seen a postcard or will ever see a postcard, because to the best of my knowledge, they're no longer produced. But anyway, we'll look at that in a bit of detail later. I'm actually very sorry about the demise of the postcard, because we used to have fun with them. It was a great way to liven up a holiday, was to go and buy a postcard of the area where you're in, and you'd fill this thing in and you'd send it off to your friends back home and make them jealous and stuff like that. But times change. Okay, and then the third category, instructions or directions. Now, these are very, very valid indeed. And we are certainly going to look at both of those in some detail later on. Then, you must select one longer text and one shorter text. Those are the fixed instructions. Okay. Let's move on and start looking at these things in detail. We'll start with letter writing. Now, I must make one thing perfectly clear. It is a fairly useful skill to be able to write proper letters. But remember that the days of letters being posted, and, you know, putting them in envelopes and buying stamps and stuff, those days are gone. Not even the bank sends me letters anymore. All our communication is now done through these things. It just works that way. This is fact. However, it does give you an idea of how to communicate fluently. So let's take a look at our informal letters or friendly letters. Now, this is the only potential trick on the informal letter. You must check, is it within the boundaries of the country or is it international? If it is international, then you have to include the country in your address. If it is not international, then you don't include the country in your address. Okay? Now, as is the case with an essay, it's introduction, body, conclusion. That's fairly obvious. The intro must be, please, original. Okay? I know that in the past, some people were trained to say, I am pleased to be writing this letter to you. But that is not an effective introduction. Okay, friendly, informal. It must have an informal register. And this, please take note, this drives me absolutely mad every year when we're marking paper 3s. Who and why are colons inserted into the salutation? It's silly. When you don't stop midway through your salutation. If you have a colon in it, it will be, Dear Timothy. How dumb is that? It's wrong, wrong, wrong. It is the moron's colon. Don't use it. It should in fact simply be, Dear Timothy. That's it. Finished. That's your salutation. Incidentally, that's my name, so nobody can accuse me of being prejudiced or anything and using other people's names. It's my name. I could do what I like with it. I like the name. Right. Then, salutation and a conclusion. Are they informal? And formal conclusions would include yours sincerely or yours faithfully. They are formal. They are not informal. An informal conclusion would be something like your friend. That's it. Nice and informal. Or otherwise, your loving son or something like that. But not yours sincerely or yours faithfully. These are inappropriate for informal letters. Now we go to formal letters. Okay? Many of these tips the same. The one thing I am going to say is this, the formal letter and the letter to the press, very similar in every regard. They have the most complicated format of any transactional task. But the one thing I will say about formal letters, they are valid. It's not obsolete as in the case of the friendly letter. Formal letters, you will probably still be writing in 60 or 70 years' time. The only difference is that you're sending them electronically instead of through the post, or snail mail, as it's been called for the last 20 years. Ever since we had emails, slowly but surely the requirement for a post office has, post office in the formal sense of the word, where you're posting letters, it's gone. It's gone. I'm so old, don't worry, I'm so old that I can still remember sending and receiving telegrams. I kid you not. Right, format. Now, as I said earlier, I think it's a total of something like 13 different points of format that you must, to which you must adhere when you are doing formal letters. Watch out for that. It's not easy. Now, this is a key. You are not ever addressing a formal letter to anybody except a person. You are not simply addressing it randomly to a company. You are addressing it to a specific person. If you don't know the person's name, then I've put their position or rank or something, like managing director, the principal, etc., etc. Okay? So, name not known, right, position. Then, this one makes me laugh for all the wrong reasons. The bank always used to send me letters saying, Dear Mr. Osborne. Okay, fine. Then I open up the envelope, and what do I find on the inside? Dear Sir, Madam. Good grief. They know I am male. I can prove it. Look, I've got a beard. I am not Madam. I am Sir or Mr. And really, that was lazy, sloppy behavior on the part of the bank. So if you know the gender, you do not use Dear Sir, Madam. Okay, again, no colon in the salutation. It is moronic, and it is unnecessary, and it is wrong, and it is silly, and it is infuriating that people still do that in this day and age. Okay, ending. Now, this is the place for a formal ending. It's a three-part ending. It is yours sincerely, or yours faithfully, or yours truly, or something like that. And then you must have a signature and a name. So remember, always those three components in the ending. Now, letter to the editor is just about identical in format to the formal letter. The only difference is you omit the dear in the salutation. You will simply say sir or madam. That's it. Terse, abrupt. Short as you can make it. Now, this thing here is so important. A letter to the editor is not being written to the editor. You are sending the letter to the editor in the hopes that it will be published for all the readers of a publication to read. These have, to a very great extent, fallen away for the simple reason that we do most of our replies on Facebook and such things nowadays. So watch out for that. I've actually put it there. It's replying to a post on Facebook. It is not addressed to Zuckerberg. Please remember that. Okay, you are merely opening up your thoughts for the entire readership of that publication to share or to comment on or whatever, but it is not addressing the editor. So for that reason, you never use the word you in a letter to the press. You only use he, she, it, they. And remember, when you are writing your final grade 12 exam, you have to use a fake name and address. It's not so important in grade 10 or 11 because it's being marked at the school. It's only the final that will actually have that proviso. And I do recommend that you have a bit of fun in the meantime and choose for yourself a fake name and choose for yourself a fake address. You can really have fun. And the teacher, if you've got a teacher who takes this seriously, they're going to play along and they're going to laugh with you. Now, obituaries. Now remember we looked in the structure of the exam paper. You have the choice between an obituary or a CV and a covering letter. Now, because it is very, very, very difficult to set a CV and covering letter question, almost all paper 3s will give you an obituary option. So I would recommend very strongly that you learn the format of the classic obituary. Okay, I'm going to run through it quite quickly. We haven't got too much time to dwell on this. So you've got first your title, okay, full names, year of birth and death, introduction, biographic details, cause of death, surviving family members, and funeral arrangements. It's those 6 elements. And I would recommend that you take this down and you ensure that you structure your obituaries according to this. Okay, we have to move on, but I'm sure if you're watching a recording, you can hit a pause button. This is an example of a classic obituary. I won't be able to read through it, there isn't time, but just take a look at that. Okay, and that, and that, and that. Right, those are your elements of the obituary with the title, etc. Okay, if you want to, if you're watching the recording, put it on to record, well, sorry, just pause it and take that down or screenshot it or do whatever you want to do. Okay, now reports. Okay, you've got, hey, go away. I haven't called you yet. You can have formal reports or you can have informal reports. Usually they are formal. Informal reports are normally done verbally. Okay, notice that either for a person or an entity, for example, a school-based one will be either for the principal or for the SGB. Okay, subject line. In the same way you have a subject line in a formal letter, a report requires a subject line. Okay, conclude with name and rank of author. Okay, and just a reminder, watch out for using your real name. And it is factual. It doesn't contain figurative language. Oh, I've put that on there. You don't have figurative language to use. Now, I see I have been going for just over 20 minutes, which is bad policy. We're going to have to take a break. I don't want anybody to get tired of this work because it is very important. So we're going to take a short break. Just a reminder that we are here dealing with transactional texts. And in this section, we're looking at various tips on how to do the longer transactional pieces correctly. I'll see you in 2 or 3 minutes. Goodbye for now. Welcome back. We are tackling here today a series on on transactional writing, the long and the short transactional writing for English first additional language speakers. And we are looking at various tips on how to do these things correctly and, more importantly, how not to blow it in an exam. What we have on the board is a perfect example of how to blow it. Because, unfortunately, nobody well, very few people nowadays reads reviews. And if you don't read reviews, how are you going to write a review? So my advice to you is, if you're into that sort of thing, if you do read reviews, I do, if you do read and write reviews, go ahead, select it as a topic. But if you're not familiar with this stuff, stay away, choose something else. Anyway, there you can see book, movie, theater production, restaurant, anything like that. Don't, whatever you do, try to select a restaurant review if you've never read one. You're going to really blow it. But there you've got book, theater production or movie, restaurant, and then of course balanced and fair but factual. And then of course a rating. You know, normally a movie, for example, will be rated according to up to 5 stars. You know, 5 stars is excellent, don't miss it. 4 stars is really worthwhile, don't miss it. 3 stars is not too bad. 2 stars is, well, you know, mediocre, not really recommended. 1 star is, no, rubbish. So watch out for that. Okay, target market should be indicated if it's appropriate. But as I say, the best thing you can do is to stay away from these. Right, oh, I've put that in there. Dangerous selection. Okay, newspaper or magazine article. This one is recommended. All of you have read newspaper or magazine articles. By all means, go for it. Select this one. It's not a booby trap. The title and the byline, that's your basic format. Byline, name and location. Informal register. So it's because it's informal. It normally produces a good result. Okay, do you do it in columns? The answer is yes. It's recommended but not compulsory. Okay? It just looks more like an article if you do it in columns. You don't have to, but it's the best way to do it. Okay, first person and second person, no, it makes it sound biased. Right, agenda and meeting minutes. This one, we've had surprisingly good results on this one. So if you have at least been taught how to do this, by all means, go ahead. It's probably quite a safe choice. Okay, and you use the items in the agenda, you use that as subheadings and you write out the minutes. It works quite well. Just watch out for this. No figurative language and third person only. Oh, there I've said no figurative language. Okay, and then formal register. But because it's very simple and functional language, you're not going to use long, complicated words. You're just going to keep it basic. Speech, highly recommended. Greetings, introduction, body, conclusion. The best greeting to use is good evening or something like that. 2 words. That means you've got 148 words left. Watch out for overdoing the introduction. Okay? Humor if you can. It's always good to have a laugh. And make sure that it's a speech which nobody's ever heard before. Don't quote lots of cliches, such as if you're giving a speech at the school, I don't want to hear that education is the key to success. I know that already. I'm a teacher. Please don't feed me that. Or a wise man once said, or all that sort of rubbish. Really. Okay, dialogue. Usually the dialogue is the highest score. It's between 2 people. Not 3, not 4, it's 2. Dia means 2. Dialogue, to speak. All right. And, you know, in the past it was always phone call or interview or something like that. But no, now they'll give you a picture and say, you know, write out the conversation that is going on between these 2 people, which I think is brilliant, just by the way. I think it's an excellent, creative way of livening up a topic. Dialogues, no greetings. I mean, it mustn't be stuff like, you know, knock, 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 knock on door. Please come in. Door opens. Hello, how are you? I am fine, how are you? I am fine also, please sit down, etc., etc. You've got 150 words. Don't waste a single one of them. Get straight to the topic. Okay, advertisement, poster, and flyer. Oh dear. I always use that as a way of attracting attention. All right? With advertisements, I strongly recommend them because you can be so creative. Let your mind go. Okay? Just a word of warning with the advertisement. Remember that your minimum word count is 80. And very often I've seen adverts which have not reached the minimum word count. People are too busy drawing pretty pictures and borders and stuff like that. Watch out, that's a booby trap. Okay? And use variety in your fonts. Don't forget to use your AIDA principle. You have to attract attention, you have to sustain interest, you have to cause desire, and you have to make some way for the reader to take action. Okay, don't forget contact details. That's an important part of the final section, the action section. Okay, invitation. Who is being invited? Where is the function? Okay, you'll need a date. You'll need a time. You'll need a dress code. And you'll need répondez-vous s'il vous plaît. Okay? In other words, please reply. That's French. And when you put the RSVP, you'll have to put when, to whom, and how. Okay, diary entries. Day and date above each entry. That's the only format guide. You can be given either 1, 2, or 3. Make sure that you know the correct number. If you blow the number, you're going to wipe out half your marks. Logical sequence, please. Okay? I don't want you going into hospital with 3 broken legs after a car smash and coming out feeling absolutely fine the next day. It doesn't work like that. Okay, informal language, so they're a good choice. Very informal. It's the most informal language you can get. Okay, now postcards, again, great fun, but I don't think you're ever going to see one. You're certainly never going to send one. So you may in a museum see 1 or 2, but in real life they've gone. Okay, instructions. Now, instructions is very simple. They've got to be detailed. The guy's got to be able to understand exactly what is required of him, etc., etc. And they must be clear. And they must be written, well, maybe written in point form. I strongly recommend point form with bullets in this instance. Bullets in an essay, of course, are an abomination because they ruin the flow, the coherence. But with instructions and directions, bullets are great. Bullets are used, by the way, as a way of separating items in a list without order of priority. So with instructions, you can use bullets and write them in point form. And finally, directions. Basically, they've got to make sure that you get where they get you to where you want to go. Okay? So again, include all required detail and just make sure that if the directions are followed, you're going to get there. And don't just use comma, 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 comma. Again, with directions, I recommend bullet form. You know, drive down the road, at the 3rd traffic light, turn right. Go straight for 500 meters and take the off-ramp to the left. Short, sweet, to the point, and you put a full stop and you start another sentence. It doesn't matter if it's abrupt. Who cares? It's functional. Okay? And that is that. I'm going to just go back there for a second. I'm looking at the time. I think I was going to show you the assessment. Wait, we can do that within 2 minutes. Assessment of these transactional texts. Here is the rubric used to assess transactional texts. This is for the longer transactional. I'll show you the shorter transactional. It's just down below here. It is exactly the same, except that the mark allocations are different. The descriptors that tell you how to mark are identical. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one we use. We'll just use the long transactional one for now. Right? And it always helps to look at the highest category, the exceptional category. This will tell you exactly what is required. So let me just increase the zoom so that everybody can see it. Oops, sorry. Didn't mean to do that. Here we are. We'll take it this way. There. Here you've got the descriptors, and let's look. This is the exceptional category. Outstanding response, beyond normal expectations, intelligent and mature ideas, extensive knowledge of the features of the type of text. Writing maintains focus, in other words, no digressions at all, it's fully on topic. Coherence in content and ideas, highly elaborated, all details support the topic, appropriate and accurate format. That is the ideal transactional text. Let's look at the language aspect. You see here it goes for tone, register, style, purpose, effect, audience and context, language use and conventions, word choice, punctuation, and spelling. But let's take a look here. Tone, register, style, and vocabulary highly appropriate to purpose, audience, and context. Grammatically accurate and well constructed, virtually error-free. That's it. That is the ideal transactional text. There, we have looked at that. Now, I can take us away and we'll go to examples of the texts. Okay, but before we do that, we are going to take a very brief break, and then we can look at these in some detail. This was just a reminder, this was the second part of this presentation, the series on transactional writing, which is, as you can see on the board, it's aimed at the English First Additional Language candidates of grades 10 and 11. In this second section, we've been looking at transactional writing tips, and we looked briefly at how the stuff is assessed. I'll see you within a minute or two. Goodbye. Welcome back. This is the third and final part of the section on transactional writing texts. In this part, we shall be looking at actual examples from previous papers, some of them incidentally going back quite a long way, because when I was drawing this up, I discovered some which were set by various teachers quite a long time ago and which are still fully valid today. So let us take a look at these things. We'll comment on them just as a way of saying, look, this is what's expected of you. But take a look at this one, the friendly letter, the informal letter. Now, don't forget, keep in mind what we said earlier about letters. If you choose this one, what does it say? You are on holiday in another country. Okay, and then you write a letter to your closest friend in South Africa. So it's international. In other words, it's crossing a border. So you must, in your address, you must make sure that you include the name of the country where you are currently visiting or whatever on holiday. Okay. It's not that difficult, and incidentally, this would be quite an easy choice, because if you look at the topic, it's very user-friendly. Yesterday you met a world-famous person. Okay, so you write a letter to your closest friend in South Africa, and you describe how you felt when you met this famous person. This is quite a fun one, because it's one of the few times you're ever going to get to meet your heroes, even if it doesn't really happen. Okay, let's take a look at this. Now, the obituaries, as we said, for some reason, there's more people dying in South Africa than any other place on earth, because there's so many obituaries that we have to write. Okay, this one says South African broadcasting personality who died in an airplane accident. Right? And all it says is, write the obituary for that person, which can be published in a national newspaper. Okay. Notice, whoever compiled this, it is gender neutral. It makes no mention of he or she. Hey, same with the informal letter. It just says to your closest friend. Okay, so each of these cunningly constructed, because there is never an instruction concerning gender. Okay, report. This one's quite interesting. Just watch out for a report. You must know just your basics of your format. We looked at that in the previous lesson. Don't forget that it has a subject line. It must be addressed to a specific person, and you must have your name on at the bottom. But anyway, There we are. This one is a report on a person to, shall we say, confirm their good character. Oh, I see we've got a format change there. When I copied and pasted from the exam, I see the PowerPoint has made an alteration. I never noticed that. Sorry about that. Okay, there we go. Speech. Now this one, I confess I modified it to update it. You know, just take a look at that. This one would be highly recommended. It's fun. It's now January 2021 and you passed your grade 10 English with such a good result that the principal has asked you to present a speech of advice and motivation to the school during the opening assembly. Wow! Never ask people for motivational advice. You get the biggest load of rubbish. But anyway, there we are. Let's see what else. Now, conspicuous by their absence are things such as the CV, review, anything like that. Okay, advertisement, right? So this one is for a poster, it says there, A4 size poster, advertising your business, right? It's a sign painting business, right? And that's that. And again, watch out, make sure that you go past the minimum of 80 words. Don't spend all your time drawing pretty pictures and borders. Right, diary entries. Now, it's talking about, the very simple one, it's talking about a school trip. 2 diary entries. Now, please note 2. If you write 3 diary entries, the last one will not be marked. If you write 1 diary entry, you're only going to get half the marks because you need 2. So watch out for that. Always make sure that you got the correct amount. 1 from the day before the trip, 1 from the day after. So this is, you've got before, trip, and after. So they'll be 2 days apart. If the first one's on the 9th of the month, the second diary entry is going to be on the 11th of the month. Okay. Now, directions. Now, this one I've included, even though it requires a map. The original had a map of the construction site where you had to plot your way around this huge hole and cross over a little bridge and everything like that. And it was a brilliant question and was very popular among the candidates, apparently. So I've included this just as an example of the unusual things that can be given to you. It basically says use the map below and write out these directions. Okay, let's move on. Again, some more short transactional stuff here. An advertisement. Okay, here again, you're putting up an A4 size advertisement in the classrooms. You're going to be running a small trading business inside the school gates. I doubt if this would ever happen in reality, but it's a nice thought. And there we are, draw up this advertisement. And don't include dumb things such as come one, come all. That is overused, it's a cliche. It must be original, it must be different. Okay, diary entries and bingo! You've reached the finals in a competition. Okay, live on TV or series on television. And 2 diary entries, experiences and emotions. Again, recommended this. It'll be an easy one to do a really good diary entry because you've got such a rich source of emotions that are involved. Okay, instructions. Please look at this one. It's so unusual. As your English teacher, I would like to make my lessons more effective by improving the classroom. Explain to me how I can do this. Just like that. I mean, wow. Please note, there is, of course, this warning here. Please note that marks will be awarded for written content only, not diagrams or illustrations. Okay, you must watch out for things like that. Let's see what else we can find. Formal letter. This is quite a common one. Take a look at this. Problems in the area, and you decided to take action. So before you sit down and write this, you're going to have to think for yourself, what are the problems in your area, and what action do you want to see taken? Now, you write a letter to the leader of a political party. So there we are. It doesn't have to be a party that even exists. You can make up your own. You ask for direct assistance to be provided in order to solve these problems. It's this one I would choose if there was nothing else that appealed to me. Remember what we said about the formal letter? Most difficult format. So be careful. I'm not saying you mustn't choose it, but be careful. You must really know what you're doing if you choose this one. Obituary. Oh dear, it's a well-known politician this time. Okay. Basically, it's all the same thing. We're just giving you different people who've snuffed it. Because we've got to. Okay, report. This is an interesting one. If you look at the details here, just before school started this morning, there was an incident during which the courageous actions of one learner very likely saved the life of another one. The principal has decided that an award for bravery is appropriate in this case, and because you were one of the witnesses to the incident, you have been asked to produce a report describing exactly what you saw at the time. Okay, write this report. So obviously it's going to be addressed to the principal. All right, the byline will be describing, you know, near fatal incident or something like that, and your name will come at the end. And you can probably produce a very good piece here. Let your imagination fly a little bit. It won't do any harm. Dialogue. Oh, this one. Take a look. This is a really classic one. You see that on Friday, one of your friends left a bag at your house. Well, you went out together. When your mother came back home, she saw the bag, opened it, and was startled to discover that it contained cigarettes, alcohol, and some dacha. Immediately, she called you on your cell phone. Write out the dialogue that resulted. This could be very lively indeed. This sort of thing, I recommend. Search for them and select them first. Let's see what else we've got. Okay, this one's concerned about a high rate of unemployment in this town. Okay. Write to a managing director and you suggest that the company consider setting up a factory here. All right. Okay, here's another obituary. A famous sports star died. But you notice what's conspicuously absent in all this is things such as review, postcard. There are a few invitations, of course, but the common ones, the letters, you're going to get all the letters, but the really nasty ones, the examiners don't like putting them in as a choice. Okay, report. Okay, to bad behavior on the part of some of your peers. Dialogue. Here's a phone call to your radio station, your favorite radio station, when somebody's annoyed you by making a statement with which you totally disagreed, and you phone in to give your point of view. So, a safe choice, this one. It would actually be great fun. Then you've got to just work out with what statement would you disagree. Okay, and then you can give your own point of view, and you've got to you've got to make sure that you know to whom you're talking. In this case, you would not be talking to the person who made the statement. You would, of course, be talking to the chat show host. All right. Advertisement, uniquely South African range of sources. I quite like that. Okay, diary entries. Reach the finals. Day of the final. You were in an accident that prevented you taking part. Oh dear. 2 relevant diary entries, one before, one after. This one is interesting. Take a look here. I hope that the map has come out clearly. In this case, I was able to include the map. There you see, it's a handwritten map, and you've got Conville as a small town. It's close to the N1, and it's between 2 other towns. You've got Karaptika and Vroughton. And then you've got to use the map to explain how to get to the town museum if I am approaching on the N1 from the direction of Karaptika. So this is lovely because you've actually got to do some map reading, and you've got to get your lefts and your rights correct. Okay, so first you're looking for the town museum. There, you can see it over there. So that's your destination. I wouldn't say your final destination, haha. you're coming from this direction, so you're going to turn left off the N1, you're going to cross over the N1 and take the road. You'll cross over the little bridge over the Green Slime River, and you'll drive along like that. So then you'll have to, when you reach the T-junction, you're going to have to turn left. Okay, follow along like that. I would say go straight in, turn right there, go through the crossroads, turn left there, and you'll arrive at the museum. And there we are. It's a lovely exercise. I used to really enjoy doing these. So this, to my mind, is the ideal way of doing directions, is when you are given a map and you use the map to work out the directions. Because the modern way of doing it, they ask you to, go from the school to a party venue or something like that. It's valid, but it's very open. You don't know if the people are just sucking the details out of their thumb or what. Whereas if you've got a map, they've got to get the directions correct. There's no forgiveness. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Okay, review of school rules. Principal has asked you as chairman of the Representative Council of Learners to discuss the rules of the RCL. Write a report on your findings. Okay, that's a pretty good one. Then dialogue. I remember this one well. To be cool is to do what your friends do and to be accepted by them no matter what. Okay, you, and you reply, and it says here, continue with the dialogue that takes place between your friend and you. So you can either agree with him or disagree. Most people disagreed. I remember marking this paper. Okay, flyer, in other words, it's an advert, right? The flyer is those little pamphlets that you hand out at traffic lights or whatever. Okay, this is extra money to take care of people's dogs when they're away from home. It's called dog sitting. And incidentally, you've got a lot of professional people doing this in the bigger cities. Okay, diary entry. This one is lovely. Take a look at this. You've just found a diary lying at the side of the road. You have no idea who it belongs to. There is only one entry. Write this entry. Wow! You can be so imaginative there. You can come up with a complete story. It's special, this one. Oops, I'm clicking in the wrong place again. Sorry about that. Okay, directions. Okay, again, advertise to take care of dogs while the owners are away. Wants to bring her dog to your doggy daycare center. Right, directions to the owner on how to get to your house from the shopping center. Now, you see here what the problem is. Everybody lives in different places. The shopping centers are in different places. You may not even have a shopping center close to your house, so you'd have to make something up. But anyway, it's a valid question. Invitation card, here we are. A get-together for the class of 2010. That's appropriate because we're now 10 years later. 2010 was the year of the Soccer World Cup, and you're going to have all those memories, and you're going to be skinnering about them and talking about the goals scored against France and this and that. Anyway, then the whole thing is, it's an invitation card. Now, the invitation card also, be careful. Your minimum count, remember this, your minimum count is 80 words. If it is less than that, it's simply too short. So you're going to have to fluff out that card quite a lot. Please bear this in mind. It's a bit of a booby trap. It's the same with the adverts and the invitation card. Always the problems come in is when people use too few words and too many illustrations. Okay, diary entry, going on holiday, okay, before and after. Right, directions, again, surprise party for your sister, friends from school, give directions to the friends how to get to the venue from the school. And again, it's very random. I mean, everybody's going to come up with basically correct stuff because the person marking doesn't know whether you're lying or not. Now, I'm going to skip slightly ahead. We are, in fact, running out of time here, and I wanted to find the CV Oh, this is a good one. Magazine article. Don't be shy. Take a look at this. Increasing rate of gangsterism at schools. Write an article for a community magazine in which you raise your concerns on this issue and give advice on how to solve this problem. I don't like to use the word challenge in place of a problem. A problem is a problem. A challenge is something that you issue to another school to play soccer. But anyway, this one I do recommend because results on this sort of thing are always very good. Okay, formal speech. All right, we'll skip over that for now. We'll skip that. Oh, speech to a book club. This one's interesting. Speech focusing on the importance of reading. Here we go. Covering letter. Now, I was not able to include the CV that had been included. But this will give you an idea of what this question may be like in an exam. Take a look. Extract from, okay, the following is an extract from the curriculum vitae of Zanele Chiba, a 20-year-old female who is a volunteer worker at a hospital. Zanele is responding to an advertisement in a local newspaper for the position of caregiver. She will have to submit her full curriculum vitae as well as other relevant documents with her application. Using the format of a formal letter, write the covering letter, only the covering letter, that Zanele will send with her application. The covering letter should be addressed to the manager of Sunshine Nursing Home for the Elderly. Okay. Now, the trick here is that you have to look at to whom the letter is going, the covering letter, and then you have to look at the CV to decide what relevant points to include in the covering letter. And I was very impressed when I saw this. It's not strictly according to the the instructions given, CV and covering letter that must be written, but it was a very well thought out question, and many people selected this because it was something different, and we're all tired of writing obituaries. Okay. There, you've seen a covering letter question. It is possible to set them. It's not an absolute guarantee that you're going to get an obituary question, but I think you will get an obituary question. The probability is very high indeed. We still haven't run out of people who have recently died. Let's see what else we can find. I know there's a few more things. Here's a nice newspaper article. Okay. This one is very good because it's a discursive newspaper article. Adults believe that social media has a negative influence on teenagers. However, social media also has many benefits for teenagers. Write an article for a local newspaper in which you provide information on the benefits of social media for teenagers. Okay, so this one, we all know about social media, but I guarantee you guys out there know a lot more than I do, right? So it's a safe choice, this. Okay, what else have we got? We've got diary entries. Again, you've been absent from school for a few weeks. Your mother has informed you that your school principal will be visiting you at home. Write 2 diary entries before and after. Okay, and you may wonder why we have so many diary entries, but remember the option. If it's not a diary entry, it's a postcard. And we've got to have something from that category, and nobody knows how to write postcards anymore. Okay, what else have we got? Invitation card. Again, remember the warning here. Be careful that you reach the minimum word limit or it'll cause a problem for you. Right, there's the details. This one here, though, actually specifies, note, do not include illustrations or drawings. Now, you do have an advantage here because you've got a famous local actor who will be addressing members of your school's drama club. Okay, so you can expand it a little bit by talking about the famous local actor and why you should come to meet him or her or whatever. It's, I know, clever. It's gender neutral. So it doesn't matter whether it's male or female. It will be appropriate, but they remember that no illustrations, no drawings. Instructions. Okay, this is fascinating. I hope you get something like this. Your cousin will be getting married soon. He, she, it's not gender neutral, has asked you to look for a suitable venue for the wedding and has given you a set of instructions to follow when choosing the venue. Write the instructions that you were given. Isn't that clever? I never thought of something like that. So this is specific. What must the venue be like? And you can really let your imagination go. You know, you can say something like, well, it should have a view. It should be fully open on one side so that you have the view across the valley, and you know, must have enough room with to set up a sort of refreshments table off on the one side, and it's got to have a high ceiling so that it's not too claustrophobic. It must be well lit. Da 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 da. You can really go into detail there. Just think about your ideal wedding venue. People, that is that. This was the third and final section on transactional writing for first additional language, and it was focused mainly on grade 10 and 11. In this final section, we looked at many, many, many examples of transactional texts, all of which were taken directly from exams. I didn't make any of these up myself. Well, maybe one or two. So, I hope that this has been of benefit to you. I hope that it is at least something new and fresh and different and original for you to ponder on. And, well, I wish you every success with your soon and coming exams. Please make sure that you learn the formats and you know how to write each one of the transactional pieces which you can expect to encounter. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day. Goodbye.